Hello everyone, I'm Felix from Symphonium Audio and this is Ahmed from Elise Audio. Today we're here to talk to you guys about the development process behind Zenith and basically the history of our collaboration from the very beginning. So in 2021, we launched our Helios IEM. That was basically the IEM that put us on the map, and Ahmed over here was very receptive to Helios. He really liked the sound, and in 2022 that's basically when our history started together, right? That's when you reached out to us, to talk to us about a more ergonomic shelf for Helios.
Yeah.
And we told you that we basically already had something in the works, in the pipeline, and yeah, that's something that we basically adapted for Helios SE, correct?
Yeah. So hi Felix and
Yeah.
hi everyone. Pleasure to have you here and
Yeah.
welcome to London again. It's always guys to have you guys. It's always good to have you guys here. The Helios SE was really actually a significant step in all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Helios was obviously very well received, and I love the Helios. I thought it was a wonderful IEM, still is. The initial request was essentially, would you make me a bespoke Helios with a more ergonomic shell and a bit more bass, because I really like the bass. I just wanted a little bit more shelf. That's when you said, yeah, actually we are making shells anyway, so we can add that to our order. We ended up doing the Helios SE as a private run.
Yep.
It is a collaboration and also a private run. Helios SE was very well received. It's an IEM people still sometimes ask us about today, and the original Helios. And I think what was important in that step, the IEM itself was great and unique actually even to this day, but the thing that happened there is that we also started developing this working relationship, collaboration, understanding each other and what we want and what we like, which I think made the subsequent projects that we did together easier.
More seamless, correct?
Yeah, not necessarily easier in the terms of the workload increased dramatically.
Yeah.
But the flow of it is actually, was pretty natural.
Yeah. So I think one other thing was speaking of a bespoke Helios for yourself, I think that also was like the transition piece to our next IEM as well, because what followed in the same shell was Crimson.
Yeah.
And I think it was about that point that we also gave you a pair of Crimson with a little bit more bass, which is what you requested for, which also moved on into our next collaboration model, which was Europa. And yeah, Europa I think was like the first full-fledged collaboration piece that was released to the public, correct?
Yeah.
It was not a limited run. It still is available at this point.
Yeah.
We had a lot of fun doing the tuning back and forth, a lot of shipments from Singapore to the UK, back and forth.
Yeah.
And that basically taught us a lot of things, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to be honest, when you guys released Crimson, and Crimson was such a significant leap in the 4BA setup already, that when I heard Crimson, obviously in the back of my mind I was like, oh, is there something we and then when I heard Crimson I was like, this is already so good. It was not obvious to me that there was something different to do in the beginning.
Yep.
And then of course, I requested a unit with more bass for fun, to see how it works. And also because for my personal taste, and I know that there's a lot of people out there who actually love Crimson for this specifically, but for my own taste, the treble was slightly elevated.
Yeah.
It's a smooth, the quality is impressive, and the stage, but the treble was a little bit elevated. And my original thought, because that's kind of where I go first, is like, oh, do we put more bass to like offset that? And while that was fun, it's a fun IEM. I did not think that it brought something new to the table, right?
Yep.
I can't exactly remember how it kind of came to me, but one day I was like, instead of doing this, how about we take this amazing platform and try to do a more referencey or more I don't know, I always struggle with the word reference, but like a more smoother tuning. And that's how the idea started to be, okay, how about we do a little bit less treble and actually less bass than Crimson?
Yeah.
And that's how we started with Europa, and 15 prototypes.
15 was putting it mildly. From what you've heard so far from Europa, basically we thought that we had hit, the limit of what a 4BA could do.
Right.
And it was in 2025 that we basically just went crazy with our tuning. We actually came to London with soldering stations and a whole box of like components, and we were basically doing tuning changes in our Airbnb, like this. And yeah, basically from there we learned so much regarding what can and cannot be done with the crossovers, and that spawned Europa SE. A very small 7-piece run. Shout out to Skidra from Viking Weave for getting us the faceplate. From there, the thought process that we have was we found out that we could do so much more from what we have. And then we got to talking, and then in about end 2025 in like December, you reached out to us actually. It was like, how much further can we take this platform, correct? And we basically told you that behind the scenes we've already been doing a lot of R&D here and there. Basically, we never stopped doing tweaking basically for all our stuff. And we told you that we already had something internal changes for an upcoming IEM, and then we took that and we transplanted it into what became Zenith. So that was basically our tubeless and chambered design for the drivers. We basically went from a tube design with a lot of filtering from Helios, and we basically went to an IEM with minimal filtering and just basically 0 tubes. How did that change your perspective on what could have been done with like a 4B?
I'm gonna step back a little bit here, and when we did Europa, so there was Crimson, which is like the kind of more muscular, more aggressive,
more aggressive sound, right?
Sound, and then Europa was the more settled, smoother.
In a way, the more neutral one.
At that point in my mind, I also thought that we kind of had reached, at least from my perspective, I'm like, I think that that is good. We've now done a few models with this 4BA. I think I remember actually we were having dinner last year, and we were brainstorming what else could we do in a different setup, right? And this is why I love this collaboration process between us so much, is that it's, the Helios SE came from a playful idea of me wanting literally one bespoke unit. The process from Europa also started as a playful thing, because when you started telling me, oh hey, we're playing with this, and of course I said, can we put it in Europa and see what happens? And then of course the first prototype was nowhere near nowhere near anything we wanted. So then it was a few months of work back and forth, you in Singapore, me here. Then you guys came here to London. And that's when we actually sat down one day. And for me, that was a significant moment, because obviously when we're working together, I'm not with you in the lab. And so we have to do this process where we are shipping. And that day I kind of felt like I was with you guys in the lab and seeing you work, and it was amazing for me.
In a portable lab, basically, right?
Exactly, right? And that's how Europa Limited, the 7 units, came into existence. So we did that as like a show special for SOCAL. And that was very well received. And I love that IEM.
Sold out, basically instantly.
Exactly. It's a sound that I loved and many people love. And then the question became, what do we do with this? It's obviously a sound that we, I thought it was really, it was richer sounding than Europa. It had a bit more, I don't want to say more character, but it had more, it's definitely more colored sound.
That was basically a limit of what we did, correct? So exactly. you change this, and that gets changed as well. So we were basically doing that seesaw thing just to get like the correct, not correct, but like the perfect sound that we want, right?
Exactly.
And then we moved on from that to, okay, now that we have this, and we are very happy with what we have, what can we do after that, right?
For me, I was like, Europa Limited is a fun project. But part of me was like, let's keep it that, because it was still an incremental change. My thought process was, Europa is still good. This is not necessarily much better. I thought it was a bit better in some aspects, but it was incremental, and I didn't see it as a full-fledged release. And then that's when you told me that you were also working on this venting and tubeless technology. That's when I thought, okay, you know what? A lot of people have expressed that they wished the Symphonium IEMs had venting, the all-BA, and I was intrigued by the tubeless technology, because I had no idea what it was going to do, right? If we do this, now we have, once again, instead of doing just a tuning change, once again we have a leap in technology.
So I think that also brings us to basically what the changes we've done, from Helios, Helios SE, Crimson, Europa SE, and Zenith. Way back from the start, Helios obviously was all tubes, so it was our beginning of how far we can push our 4BA. So we had tubes all the way. Each individual tube was filtered as well, and there were pros and cons basically to that. In terms of what we moved on was like the generational leap. So after Helios was Crimson itself. So Crimson actually cut down the tubes by a third. We also removed like 50%, actually more than 50% of the filtering itself on the IEM. From there, we basically talked about what we can improve from Europa.
Yeah.
Right? So venting, the chambering, and the tubeless design. Because of us moving into a 3D printed insert, we were actually able to achieve that. So we have a chambering system right now in Zenith for all the drivers basically.
Yeah.
We also managed to put in a venting system that normally on all BA sets you basically don't have a venting system. The feedback we've gotten from people was that there's always a pressure seal when you're on the plane, when you're using it for long hours. So that basically just solves that problem for everyone. Lesser filtering as well means that you're not removing any of the tech, correct? Basically all of that is now inside Zenith.
Yeah.
From what we've learned from the beginning for the last 5 years, what we've implemented.
And again, it wasn't a simple process. And actually, some people in the industry, when I said, "Oh, we're now trying to take what we did and put it in a tubeless form," some people were like, "You're crazy. It's not gonna achieve what you think."
Or the venting, right? You're just gonna have a lot of base leak.
And actually, it's true because again, when we started that process, I remember that from the first prototypes, we immediately had that much bigger staging.
Correct.
Very quickly.
The sense of space was just immensely more than what we had before.
But the tonal balance was nowhere near.
It was completely off.
Yeah. That took about 4.
No, I think we are more than 4 months. I think it was more like 6.
And that took again months and iterations. Essentially, we kind of had to retune it from the beginning. We had to pretty much retune everything.
Yeah. I think we touched every single crossover we basically touched. And then we had to do tweaks from there, right?
Exactly. Up until the end, because when we showcased in Dubai, we basically had this in Dubai.
Yep.
And then if you remember, because of that venting kind of leaking sub-bass a little bit, we kind of wanted to try with a little bit more, but that didn't work out.
Yeah.
And then I think we were like, you know what?
We should stop there.
We should stop there.
Yeah, at a certain point, I think we just did a bit too much. We don't want to fly too close to the sun, basically.
Yeah, and today I'm very happy that we stopped there because actually, I keep telling people that Zenith, I like Zenith much more now than even when we closed the development.
Yeah.
And when I listen to it now, I'm like, oh, this is such a good idea. It just has this combination of musicality, space, dynamics, treble texture on Zenith. It's just something special to me.
Which is actually the biggest improvement for me.
Yeah.
You know I'm a treble head, right? So
yeah.
The treble texture, the treble presentation has basically just it's like chef kiss for me.
I think that's one area where Zenith clearly outperforms its price bracket.
Everything
easily.
else and everything else that came before it, basically.
I was happy that we could keep a lot of that Europa Limited extra, a little bit of warmth, more body, let's say, to the sound. It's just enough to make it interesting. It's not enough to make it very colored.
You also remember when we tried to add more bass to Crimson and to Europa, you remember like the treble just collapsing, correct?
Yeah.
Basically your staging just became small, your treble just was non-existent basically. Yeah. The chambering and the venting basically gave us texture and control of the treble that just more bass doesn't impact the treble anymore.
Yeah. We were talking about this earlier actually in the studio. This is where we connect. We both want bass and we want it to be very satisfying and punchy. But also we kind of like the bass to be tight and textured. Right? It's more bass is not always good.
Yes.
Sometimes you remove and actually that was during the Europa development process there was a point towards the end where we actually cut down some bass, but when customers came to hear it, they were telling me, oh, you added bass. I was like, no, actually, we removed some bass.
Yep.
But because we removed in specific parts,
yeah, it felt like
it felt tighter and it gave it more physicality
Yep.
and more punch.
Yeah. It's a very fine line that we're walking. You have too much bass on a certain spot, then it gets mushy. You have a little bit too little on a certain spot, and then it basically becomes very anemic. So which is basically what we've been doing for the last 4 years anyway, just fine-tuning everything.
This is why we also mentioned the Helios SE, Europa, Crimson. All of these IEMs contributed something.
Yeah.
Even though Zenith, in my opinion, and that's why it's called Zenith, and remember we had this conversation, and it's not called Crimson 2 or Europa 2 or something 2.
Correct.
The sound is different, the technology inside is quite different.
And it's also an improvement, it's not leaps and bounds, obviously, but it's an improvement to the point that it stands alone as a product and not as an iteration of something, right?
Exactly.
It stands on its own.
A lot of the work that we have been doing, sometimes it was very minute changes, especially in specific parts of the frequency response. But those minute changes are important. Somehow they are important. In this setup, they made a big difference. Minute.
Yeah.
I know. And I remember, on the Discord, I was telling people how I was driving you crazy, and I probably was. But
you were driving him, not me.
Yeah, but this is another aspect of our collaborations that I've always told people about this. Why we can actually do these collaborations, or we have been able to do them, is because you're receptive to that.
Yeah.
And you know when to tell me. Because I don't understand the values, and I don't claim to understand that, but you know when to tell me, oh, this we can try, this no, it's not going to fly. You kind of understand the value of those small changes sometimes. Yeah. It's like a paint, it's like a sculpture. It kind of has to make sense in its totality.
Zenith is a accumulation of a lot of hours of tuning, not just in our lab in Singapore, and basically London as well. So this is the accumulation of a lot of hours and hours of work.
Yeah, and this is also, I think, also commercially, right? This is when we had the conversation, because the previous collaborations were essentially private.
Correct, yes.
Right?
That's actually a question that we've gotten quite a bit. Is Zenith going to be available for everybody to buy on the Symphonium website, or is it only exclusive to Elise? So I think today on video, we're going to actually say that no, it's available on all retailers from Elise and from the Symphonium retailer network itself. We are working very hard to get these back in stock. I think it's delayed because we're in London. But
you in London has generally been productive and good. I think after Europa, even with Europa, the question started of do we keep these collaborations exclusive to Elise, or do we open them up?
Yeah.
And with Zenith, I think it's absolutely the right, because of the because also it incorporates technology that you had been developing for a long time.
And it's a big enough improvement basically for us as well, that we wanted as many people as we could, to get their hands on them, to try them. Yeah.
Exactly. And so we're glad to see it, the reception has been amazing so far, both from customers, reviewers, at shows. It's an IM that I love.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things I tell people sometimes, these collaboration projects essentially kind of allow me to just make an IM that I like. It's really how it starts.
It's basically also an excuse for me and Miko basically to just go all on designs. Yeah.
Exactly.
But that's basically a short story on the development process that we have for Zenith. So Zenith is actually available in 2 different flavors. Flavor 1, we basically have the stock cable, which is the Litmus 2-wire. In another flavor, we have it in an 8-wire cable. This is the Vortex cable Iris 8. So the difference between these 2 cables, basically just like all cables, it boils down to sound. So the 8-wire has a larger spatial presentation. Feels like there will be more bass, but in actuality it tightens up and cleans up the low, mids and bass section a bit. And to that effect, it basically just gives you a better, more punchy sound. So the bass feels more impactful. It's not to say that it basically is better, it's just 2 different flavors of sound that we felt paired really, really well with Zenith. The one drawback actually that the Iris 8 has is that the size is actually really, really chunky. It's a very big cable. Again, if you're not bothered by the ergonomics of this cable, then please try it. If you are, then the Litmus 2-wire is definitely up your alley, because we basically designed it to be a very thin, supple cable that is not overbearing when you wear it, and it's not overly heavy, while using.
Yeah, and the good thing is that obviously if people buy the Vortex cable,
Yep.
they get, it's a purchase with purchase, so they get
Correct,
both
yeah.
cables.
Yeah.
You know how much I love Litmus.
Mhm.
It's a great option, very versatile, very easy to use, very light and flexible. If you buy the Iris 8 version, you also get Litmus that you can use with literally pretty much any IM. I use Litmus all the time in my testing and listening, on the go especially, because it's so light and it's a great cable.
Yeah. So I personally use the Iris 8 quite a bit as well. Yeah, so catch both versions of Zenith available at CanJam. I'm in booth A3, A4? A3, A4, yeah. Catch you guys there.
See you guys. Bye.